this is the kind of story. That's the kind of story I always report on. So as I read this to you, understand that it sucks to be in these people that I'm going to talk about financial situation. I don't wish that upon anybody, to tell you the truth, having to deal with hard times, financial strapped, and this basically deals with getting a paycheck you've always expect every 2 weeks per pay period, working for a government organization, also known as a city, and then one day you get a paycheck and it's less than half of what you were expecting, and it's going to be I'm talking regardless, before or after taxes, less than half, period, that you're taking home. I don't wish that upon anybody. However, as Lindsey Williams said, you won't recognize America in 2 years, and we are there. This story I'm about to read you is not what you would expect out of any town in America. And it seems like I just read the other one the other day. California, a certain city in there, filed for bankruptcy. The unions are fighting and they're going to sue and this and that. Sue all you want. As they said, you can come to an agreement with us on the pay changes, or we can go to bankruptcy court. And if we go to bankruptcy court, you lose. So at least you may want to work with us. So this has to happen. These people have to suffer. And more towns, more cities have to suffer in order to bring the revolutionary change that it's going to take to fix America. And it may be a whole different America after this happens. But as all things are in history, cycles. Everything's a cycle. You can go back many times in different parts of the world and hear the same stories. Nothing changes but technology. The stories are relatively the same, with a slight little tweak here and there. Same outcome, same type of story. But it has to happen. We're in a storybook. We're in a timeline. And the storybook says, just like a clock goes back to 12 noon or midnight, right? Every day, midnight, 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 midnight. There's nothing you and I can do that's going to change that clock from going to midnight every day. And there's nothing you and I can do to change that damn sun coming up and down every day. You know it's going to happen. That's a cycle. If we were some kind of little ant, or not even ant, some kind of little creature that only lived to be 1 second, that was their lifespan, let's say, some kind of thing, right? It wouldn't even know about the sun cycle that comes up and down, because they're dying every second. And there's thousands and thousands and thousands of seconds in every day. So you'd have thousands and thousands and thousands of generations of these little creatures before, in hope these little creatures kept a little log of history to figure out it used to be daytime at one point and thousands of our, ant persons years ago or whatever, and now it's daytime all of a sudden, right? You have to look back in the history books. The point of this silly little analogy is that it's a cycle, and the cycle itself does not care. It was never designed to care. It can't care what you and I think, or what you and I are going to do when it's time for the cycle to renew, so to speak. And this cycle is called revolutionary change. It happens all the damn time. Although you may say, well, my parents have lived and died and they lived a relatively perfect life. Right. But that's like one of those little ant examples that live 1 second. Right. So your parents luckily lived 1 little millisecond of, modern time. The cycle is here. This is going to be the big boom cycle. There's always the boom and bust period. This is the bust period. And it is the bust of all bust periods. It's here. It's not coming. It's already here. It may just be slowly coming out, but it's already here. Now we're dealing with it. State after state, city after city, budget problems, budget problems, budget problems. So let me go ahead and read some of this to you. The city of Scranton sent out paychecks to its employees Friday, like it does every 2 weeks, but this time the checks were very much smaller. Matter of fact, a lot smaller than usual. Mayor Chris Daugherty has reduced everyone's pay, including his own, to the state's minimum wage of $7.25 an hour. He says the city has run out of money. Naturally, what would you do if you were running out of money and you want to ensure that everybody at least got paid? You'd probably do something similar. So, I have to cheer them in that respect, but boy, it sure sucks that they just got half of what they were used to making, roughly. So the city of Scranton has had financial troubles for the past, or at least a past couple of decades. At least 20 years you've had financial troubles. Wow. The town has been losing population since the end of World War II, but the budget problems became more serious in recent months as the mayor and the city council fought over how to balance the budget. How do you balance a budget when you have less taxes coming in? Let me fire this old girl up, because with my little sweater on for my IT room, which is cold, get a little warm in my car when I'm sitting here. What do you do when tax revenue, it's no different than you being a store, McDonald's. One little McDonald's over here, for a certain part of town. And all around that town, let's say I don't know, 7, 8, 9 mile radius even. Slowly but surely, year after year, people are moving out, people are moving out, people are moving out. Well, the property taxes stay the same. All your taxation stays the same. So what do you do to increase money? Well, naturally, you'd have to raise taxes. But that's a catch-22, because if you keep raising taxes and everyone says, man, we are taxed to hell right now compared to the rest of the country, then what happens? They're getting the hell out of there even faster. It's a sinking ship, and you're trying to tread water, and no, try this, nope, try that, try this. And meanwhile, everyone's suffering while you're trying all these things. So what do? He has to raise taxes. That's what he's saying. And he's actually right. That's the worst part. He's right. Let me continue. He needs to raise taxes, he says, to fill a $16.8 million gap. The city council wants to take a different approach and borrow the money. City council members did not respond to the request about this dispute. City council bozos, mainstream, learned from the mainstream, went to college, went to school, and this is what they teach. Let's borrow the money. The modern way of doing things, especially in America, let's borrow the money. You just had to cut everybody's pay half, down more than half, technically. People are leaving the city year after year, month after month, slowly but surely, so that revenue's not coming in like it used to, getting worse. And you want to borrow the money. Where would this idea come from? Oh, that's right. I know where. The governments of the world. America, the federal government itself borrows money. Where do you think that $16 trillion deficit we have right now comes from? We borrowed the money, and we make interest payments on it. But what do you see keep happening? We have to keep borrowing more money, and the principal that we owe keeps ballooning and ballooning higher and higher. And also, with that ballooning, goes the interest rate. Not necessarily the rate, but because the principal goes higher and we're at some certain fixed rate, let's say, you add more principal, then more interest has to get paid. If the interest rate itself moves up at all, you're screwed. But even if it doesn't, and in America, Ben Bernanke controls that right now, and no matter what he sets the interest rate to, it's going to keep going up because the principal keeps going up. So in other words, Jay Snip, are you telling me right now that it is a mathematical, plain and simple mathematical certainty that debt can't be paid off? Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Let me say it again. The United States debt, the $16 trillion, which will go higher and higher and higher, cannot and will not. It is a mathematical certainty it can't be paid off. Just like it is a mathematical certainty that these bozos in city council who want to borrow the money, who are just looking at us, what America does, what the bankers do, whatever. It's what I keep hearing on TV. It's what they're doing in Greece. And Greece still hasn't fallen apart yet. Oh, really? Have you been over there? Are they showing you photos and video yet? No, they don't really show too much of that. then you don't know it's not falling apart. Because as a matter of fact, it is falling apart. It is already falling apart. It's practically in ruins, in a sense. So let's borrow money and then make payments, so at least we can get 1 year budget out of the way. Whew. Yeah, that's good. And now we owe a massive amount of money back to the banks, who have been rigging the bond, these bonds that they would be issuing. They've been rigging those prices too. They got a little slap on the wrist several times. As a matter of fact, there may not even be any banks left to even let this poor city borrow to, because the Security and Exchange Commission keeps slapping them with fines, and you can't sell bonds to any municipalities for 2 years. Then again, maybe JP Morgan and Bank of America, maybe they're, let me check the watch here, the time. Maybe they're up, maybe their 2 years is up, so maybe they'll be first in line over the city of Scranton. I believe that's Philadelphia. Hey, you want to borrow money? Step right up. That's what we do best. We'll put you in debt, you won't be able to pay it, and then when you can't pay it, we'll try to go after something, maybe your local water company or something, trash collection company. We'll do something. We're gonna have to put something. You're gonna have to have some collateral. And of course, later on, they could probably bankrupt out of it, but probably not before JP Morgan and the banks got that collateral. Usually that's how that goes down. So the city council wants to borrow the money. Absolutely no worst decision on the face of the earth. You can't borrow, you can't fix a debt problem by piling on more debt. Bozo city council members across the world, who probably will never hear this video, but if you do, never, ever, ever, ever borrow money. You cannot borrow your way out of debt, because you're compiling more debt. See how that works? You can't get your way out of a trash pit by piling more trash on top of you and then trying to climb out. You see that? See that little basic childish logic? Yeah, try using it. Freaking city council. You kidding me? And again, let me just read a little more. I'm trying to do the best I can. This is the mayor guy. With the limited amount of funds that I have. I want the employees to get paid. Our people work hard, our police and fire. I don't have enough money and I can't print it in a basement. That's right. Only Ben Bernanke can print it in a basement. You sorry sap, you city council, you don't have a printing press. And we know you would use it just to get government and basic functions done, which is a perfect reason to use it if you had that opportunity. But you don't, because Ben Bernanke has the opportunity. And Ben Bernanke thinks bailing out his too big to fail banks is more appropriate than allowing your fire department and any other city employees to get paid what they should have gotten paid. Now, Abraham Lincoln decided, before his head was blown off, that printing money, no bonds attached, no interest attached, no owing it to anybody, the government printed it itself. It did not borrow it into existence like we do today. It printed it and paid for everything it needed to do. It won the Civil War. He said, this works so well, we're going to implement this as the United States banking system, basically. The government can print its money to do its job. There's not ever going to be a such thing as needing to tax people, income tax, property tax. You don't need any of it. We'll just print it. We'll pay ourselves and our employees, i.e. federal government employees and state employees, etc., the same way. We'll just print the money to pay them. The rest of the population will do it the regular way. But the rest of the population doesn't tax each other, right? We just have goods and services, barter, trade, buy, sell, etc. It would work fabulously. Can't have that. Central bankers didn't like that at all. Blew his head off. It's amazing. There's always a patsy. There's always a lone gunman that just happens to kill the most perfect person of the time. And we're told it's just some weirdo, wacko guy, and just incredible how that works. It really is incredible how that works. And people buy it hook, line, and sinker. That way they don't revolt and riot, because this guy's a crazy psycho. He has problems. He's mental problems. How are we going to riot about that? The guy's got mental problems. He's one sole guy, one person. He's not an army. He's not a group. He's one person. But in reality, he represents a big group. It's called the bankers, the central bankers, the same families who've been doing it for decades, centuries, etc. So back to the story. After paying workers Friday, the city had only about $5,000 left in the bank. The entire city had $5 grand left in the bank. More money flowed into city accounts that day, but it still was not enough to pay the $1 million the city still owes to its nearly 400 employees. Scranton's public workers received a few days' warning this was coming. John Judge, a firefighter and president of the International Association of Firefighters, local union 60, typically receives about $1,500 every 2 weeks. So he's making about $750 a week after deductions. On Friday, his check was less than $600 before deductions. Did I just see some tissue fly off my lip? That was a little bonus for you guys. Quote, "Don't know how I'm going to pay bills at home. I may be able to stave off for a little while," Mr. John, the firefighter Judge, says. "The kids aren't going to be able to do certain activities this summer. Maybe we're not going to be able to go on vacation." The firefighters union, along with the police and public works unions, have taken the city to court. Lackawanna County Judge Michael Barresi issued an injunction essentially agreeing with the unions that the city was breaking the law. But the city mayor, Doherty, says he doesn't have another choice. Despite the injunction, he had the city send out paychecks based on minimum wage. The unions plan to be back in court first thing Monday morning to ask the judge to hold Doherty in contempt. There's been no love lost between Doherty and the public employee unions because of this battle. They've already spent the past decade in a legal dispute over pay that went all the way to the state Supreme Court. Both sides come to this latest battle with plenty of baggage and hard feelings. But with the nearly 400 city workers receiving a fraction of the pay they typically get, pressure is building to resolve the issue soon. Of course, the unions are going to say, we have a contract. You have to pay our employees X amount of dollars. You failed on your part of that contract. We're taking you to court. The court has agreed. You do owe it. And the city head of that mayor said, well, I understand, but I only have X amount of dollars, and I want to make sure everybody gets something, which is the right thing to do. I applaud the guy. Here's your minimum wage. Get lost. So the next battle, as he said, the judge will be back in court on Monday. We need our money. As J.G. Wentworth said, it's my money and I need it now. You know what, you union guys? Call J.G. Wentworth. Call J.G. Wentworth. Tell him you're not just an average employee. You've got a union contract. J.G. Wentworth, I've got a union contract that says I get paid X amount of dollars. They can't fire me. They can't do nothing to me. It's my money and I need it now. Can I have a few months in advance? Hello? JG, what the? Right? Old JG Wentworth. Old JG Wentworth can't save you. Because this is a systemic rot problem. It's the way this whole thing works. You wanna know something amazing? The average lifespan of paper money, backed by nothing, fiat money, just paper. 39-40 years on average. 1933, 34, right? 35 or 33, 34. The gold confiscation thing, they paid everybody $20 an ounce. The next year it went to $35. And you can't own it anymore. Can't own it, we're going to paper, strictly paper. But internationally speaking, whatever, it's backed by gold. We have Fort Knox. So technically we're not breaking the laws of the Constitution, even though you can't own gold and silver. Or gold, actually you could own silver. 1934, was it 34? Yeah, 34, roughly. 34, 44, 54, 64, 74 would be 40 years. 73 would be 39 years. 1971, old Nixon, removing our country off the gold standards. This is going to help create jobs. Go look at the video. Scrap Gold Business, I think is the guy's name on YouTube. Scrap Gold Business. Just put a video up a couple days ago of the actual Richard Nixon speech. Why we're being taken. I refuse to let internationalists, these international interests, wage war on the U.S. dollar through their currency markets and the online and the markets, you know, the international markets. I'm doing this to help create jobs here at home in America, to stop these internationalist interests for messing with our dollar, you know, whatever. Lie after lie after lie. And what I'm doing will not affect anybody in this country. If you have a certain amount of dollars today in your possession and you're buying an American-made car, American-made goods, this does not affect you at all. Fast forward 40 years. American made this, American made that. Where? There's only a couple, 2 or 3 car manufacturers who, oh, wait a minute, who, by the way, just moved shop to China. Ford and GM. Interesting. So now we're going to be importing something we used to export, right? We used to export cars from Ford and GM. Now we're going to import cars from Ford and GM from China. Imagine that. So, 1971, we're going off the gold standard. Now we are pure fiat-based currency. Strangely enough, that was right around 39, 40 years that we were able to skate through that. We also made the deal with OPEC right at the same exact time. We will take you out of third world status. All of you countries over there, put you into first world status. Your whole populations will build up. It'll be phenomenal. You just have to make sure you sell your oil for US dollars. You're going to sign this agreement. We'll bring all the equipment. We'll set it up. We'll even pull it out of the ground for you at very cheap prices. You must sell it for nothing but US dollars. So now the whole world needs US dollars. Right around the time our currency should have collapsed by making a statement that we're removing ourselves off the gold standard. But it didn't happen. How? Because the whole world needs oil, and if they wanted to buy and sell oil, they needed US dollars. So they had to convert their currencies, or gold that they had, or whatever they had, into US dollars to do so. So now we have 1971, 1981, 91, 2001, 2011. That's 40 years. Hey, there's that number again. There's that damn number again about the average lifespan of paper money backed by nothing. And sure enough, 2011, 2012, we're here right now, same time frame, and we're having major economic problems. We've had the most debt we've ever had as a country, $16 trillion. Again, it's just compounding. 1971, we had $1 trillion of debt. 2000, we had, what was it, 6 trillion or 3 or 4 or 5 trillion, somewhere around there. And then from that time till Bush left office, it went from either 4 or 5 or 6, whatever it was, to 9. When from 1971 until 2000, let's call that 30 years, it took 30 years to go to $6 trillion of debt, and then Bush takes office, goes to 9 trillion in just a few years, and then he leaves. As he's walking out, President Obama walks in, they up another 1.5 trillion or so. A year later, they do it again. 30 days later, they do it again, and then now we're back, and then they do it, and then after that, to where we are now, the 15 point whatever trillion. And guess what? We're going to be doing it again in the very near future. So as you can see, major currency crisis going on right now. This is the problem the cities are going to have. It's a problem the municipalities, the states, everybody's going to have this problem, and nobody has a printing press except for Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve. So the Federal Reserve can print money out of control as much as they want or as little as they want. And of course they just give it to their banker friends the whole time and let them sit on this money. So buckle up. Keep stacking silver. It's the only thing that's going to save you from this nightmare.